They always said that seduction is about charm, one-liners and confidence. That's a lie. Machiavelli had already revealed centuries ago that power, including the power of attraction, belongs to those who understand human nature as it is, not as they wish it to be. What truly attracts a woman is rarely visible. It's in the behavior, the energy, the silent posture of someone who seeks respect, not love. Because in the politics of instinct, love comes after domination. And those who understand this learn that the end justifies the means when the goal is to awaken the unconscious. A man who understands the psychology of attraction doesn't play to please, he plays to lead. He knows that the female body responds to symbols of emotional power, not theatrical gestures. A woman surrenders herself to a man who makes her feel safe, curious, and desired, all at the same time. And this has nothing to do with manipulation. It's pure virtù, self-control, mastery of one's emotions, the calculated use of force. Machiavelli would call this practical wisdom, the kind of intelligence that transforms every gesture into silent influence. But what few people realize is that, in the realm of attraction, the same power tactics used by leaders, generals, and strategists are used. The man who understands this truth dominates not only the game of love, but any environment. He learns to be unpredictable, yet reliable, strong yet serene, enigmatic yet present. And while most strive to be loved at any cost, he understands that it's better to be feared than ignored. This is the difference between the man who conquers by luck and the one who conquers by conscience. In this video, you'll understand why a policy guided by reality, not ideals, is the true foundation of modern seduction. We'll unravel, step by step, the 5 psychological tactics that make women surrender not on impulse, but on instinct. We'll talk about power, influence, and desire from Machiavelli's perspective, not to manipulate, but to understand. Because those who understand human behavior as it is don't need tricks. It's enough to be in control. And perhaps in the end you'll realize that seduction isn't a game between two bodies, it's a duel between two minds. One seeks to dominate the space, the other seeks security within it, and whoever masters themselves always wins. There's something deeply human in the way attraction manifests, something that escapes logic and delves deep into the subterranean realm of the mind. Most believe that desire arises solely from the physical, but the body is merely the messenger of much more complex, unconscious intentions. Machiavelli would say that the game of seduction is a form of politics guided by reality, not ideals. No one falls in love with appearances, but rather with the sense of power, security, or challenge that the other person evokes. It's in this invisible realm where instinct and strategy meet, and where the end justifies the means almost naturally. A woman attracted to a man rarely fully understands why. Sometimes it's his calm in the face of chaos, other times it's his gaze that doesn't seek approval. These small signals activate unconscious triggers linked to emotional survival and virtù, that inner strength that combines courage, mastery, and constant adaptability. A man who masters his impulses conveys the same sense of stability that a leader conveys to his army. And Machiavelli already warned, those who do not master themselves will inevitably be dominated by others. When it comes to attraction, many imagine the secret lies in techniques, phrases, or appearance. But the true power isn't in the gesture itself, it's in the symbolism it conveys. A man who doesn't flinch in the face of rejection shows, even silently, that he's not driven by necessity, and that makes him magnetic. It's the calculated use of force, not force itself, that creates fascination. And if you observe, you'll see that the most attractive men aren't those who promise the world, but those who seem able to conquer it without witnesses. The curious thing is that these dynamics have always existed. At the court of Florence, in Machiavelli's time, Charm and power walked hand in hand. Those who knew how to wield mystery and presence intelligently ruled without raising their voice. The same rule applies in relationships. Attraction is a subtle form of politics. Those who understand unconscious motivations exert influence without needing to manipulate. The appearance of virtue is the cover, but what truly attracts is self-mastery, the silent sign of someone capable of protecting, challenging, and inspiring all at once. Therefore, understanding the hidden reasons behind attraction is not an invitation to manipulation, but rather to awareness. Knowing what moves another is the basis of any true power. The man who understands this doesn't play the game of desire, he creates the rules. And while others worry about words, he observes patterns. Because in the end, true virtue lies in seeing what lies beyond the eyes, and it is precisely here that understanding what truly awakens desire begins, a territory Machiavelli would call the invisible art of influence. When it comes to attraction, few realize that it follows the same laws that govern politics. Machiavelli saw power as an art of perception, not just action. And, curiously, desire works the same way. No one surrenders to someone they don't perceive as strong, stable, or strategically unpredictable. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, is also the politics of seduction. A woman doesn't fall in love with what a man claims to be, but with how he positions himself in the invisible game between virtù and fortuna. He doesn't need to say he has control. He just needs to show he doesn't need control to have it. Machiavelli said that a prince should appear virtuous, but act with calculation. This applies to attraction with almost surgical precision. The appearance of virtue creates admiration, but it is the calculated use of force, emotional firmness, mastery over one's own ego that generates desire. Being lovable all the time is dangerous. The balance lies in being trustworthy but not predictable. A man who understands the power of silence, who knows when to step aside and when to act, displays virtù in its purest form. He does not seek to be loved. He understands that it is better to be feared than ignored. This idea may seem cold, but reality confirms otherwise. A man who constantly tries to please becomes predictable, and predictability in the realm of attraction is boring. Mystery isn't manipulation, it's strategy. It's the same reasoning used by leaders who maintain the respect of their own loyal armies. To show everything is to lose the element of surprise. In seduction, as in war, those who reveal themselves completely become vulnerable. Power arises from the ability to balance presence and absence, affection and coldness, tenderness and purpose. This is why true influence lies not in words, but in emotional control. When Machiavelli spoke of decisions based on real human nature, he knew that human beings are driven by emotions, not logic. A woman, like the people in his political metaphors, follows those who make her feel, not those who merely promise. Desire is a form of emotional loyalty. It is granted to those who awaken sensations few can. And a man with virtù understands that the most powerful force is the one that doesn't need to be used. Ultimately, every relationship is a micro version of power. There are alliances, there are strategies, there are calculated risks. A man who understands this doesn't become manipulative. He becomes conscious. He understands that the end justifies the means when the goal is a balance between reason and emotion. Attraction isn't an accident. It's the result of the constant adaptability of someone who knows that, just as in politics, power changes hands when someone loses control of themselves. And that's precisely where the four hidden reasons behind desire emerge. Those that, even without words, determine who dominates the game and who becomes just another piece on the board. Attraction, when stripped of appearances, reveals an ancient code, 4 silent keys that unlock the doors of female desire. Machiavelli would call this reading human nature, understanding what moves, not what is said. These 4 reasons, emotional security, mystery, self-confidence, and purpose, are like invisible pillars. When present, they transform the ordinary man into a magnetic figure. When absent, charm fades and power dissipates. No amount of praise or appearance can replace the psychological impact these elements have on the unconscious. The body reacts before the mind understands why. The first reason is emotional security. It has nothing to do with physical protection, but with psychological stability. A woman surrenders herself to someone who conveys coherence between what they feel and what they do. A man who easily loses control demonstrates weakness. And as Machiavelli said, a prince who shows himself unstable is not to be trusted. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, teaches this. True power is predictable in character, but unpredictable in action. A woman feels peace around an emotionally stable man because her unconscious associates this with survival. He becomes, symbolically, the safe kingdom amidst chaos. The second reason is mystery, which is the mastery of uncertainty. Machiavelli knew that to reveal everything is to relinquish power. The same applies to seduction. Mystery arouses curiosity, and curiosity keeps desire alive. A predictable man is like a book that has already been read. He loses his charm. But one who remains silent, who leaves room for the other to imagine, creates an irresistible tension. It's not coldness, it's strategy. The calculated use of force in this case is control over what is revealed and what is hidden. And as in war, whoever controls the timing of revelation controls the game. The third reason is self-confidence, a self-control that requires no validation. Machiavelli said that a leader should not depend on fortune, but on virtù, his inner strength. A woman feels this energy when she realizes that a man does not trade his dignity for approval. He can be gentle, but not submissive. He can be empathetic, but never desperate for acceptance. This posture communicates power without words. It's the same principle as loyal, self-supporting armies. Those who stand on their own 2 feet do not fear abandonment. A self-confident man is therefore one who governs himself before trying to conquer anyone else. And the fourth reason is purpose, perhaps the most magnetic of all. A man with purpose doesn't need to show off. His presence already radiates direction. A woman senses when he has something greater guiding his actions, something beyond her control. This sense of mission activates the feminine instinct for connection with what is stable and ascendant. Machiavelli would say that this is the kind of leader fortune tends to favor. Because purpose is the true throne, it changes the way a man walks, speaks, and looks, and when that happens, he doesn't need to chase after it. Everything begins to orbit around it. These 4 reasons are not tricks, but reflections of human nature, which Machiavelli observed with surgical precision. Security, mystery, self-confidence, and purpose are the invisible forces that drive desire. Not because they manipulate, but because they represent real psychological power. And it is at this point that the inevitable question arises. How do these elements manifest themselves, practically and perceptibly, in human interactions? After all, what distinguishes the man who arouses fascination from the one who merely arouses sympathy is how he translates these forces into behavior. It's easy to talk about psychological power, but it's in behavior that it truly reveals itself. Machiavelli taught that reality-driven politics is measured in actions, not intentions. And seduction is no different. A woman doesn't fall in love with a man's words, but with the coherence between what he says and what he does. when he stands calmly in the face of rejection, when he doesn't desperately seek validation, when he stands firm in his values even under pressure. He translates emotional security into body language. This kind of serenity is rare, and everything rare is precious. An emotionally secure man doesn't need to prove anything. He knows when to retreat and when to act, and this awareness is pure calculated force. For example, instead of responding to a provocation with anger, he observes and chooses silence, not out of cowardice, but out of dominance. This self-control arouses curiosity and respect. Machiavelli would say that it is better to be feared than to be treated with disdain, and respect is born precisely from this combination of kindness and firmness. A woman realizes that he is not an emotional toy, he is a solid throne, and attraction in this case is inevitable. Mystery, in turn, appears in simple gestures. The mysterious man isn't one who hides, he's one who doesn't constantly explain himself. He leaves questions hanging in the air, and his every silence seems purposeful. When he speaks little but observes a lot, he evokes in people the same effect a leader evokes in his allies: attention. This strategy is ancient. In the art of war, generals who spoke little were the ones who inspired the most fear and fascination. In the emotional realm, the same applies. Mystery is the veneer of virtù, the presence of someone who doesn't need to be noticed to be felt. Self-confidence manifests itself almost invisibly. It's the way a man occupies space, how he holds his gaze, how he doesn't change his essence to fit in. He may be in a casual conversation, but his posture betrays him. He's in no rush to impress. It's his own loyal army that sustains him, his emotional independence. When a man doesn't kneel before the need for approval, the world begins to bow to his energy. A woman feels this intuitively. She realizes that even if everyone rejected him, he would remain the same. And that is pure power. Ultimately, purpose translates into focus. A man with purpose doesn't waste time on distractions. He radiates direction. People align around him like satellites of a center of gravity. A woman senses he belongs to something greater, and this creates an instinctive tension, the desire to participate in this mission, to be part of its construction. Machiavelli would call this a fortune favorable to the virtuous. When life seems to cooperate with those who have clarity and decisiveness, such a man doesn't need to seduce, he magnetizes. And it is at this point that the psychology of attraction transforms into something even more profound, a mirror of the very nature of power. And while most try to decipher superficial formulas, few understand that the real game isn't about conquering, it's about becoming unattainable. Because those who master these four forces don't seek to be chosen, they become the inevitable choice. Now that you understand the invisible mechanisms of attraction, the question is, what will you do with it? Most people listen, but don't apply them, and that's exactly where power is lost. Machiavelli said that knowledge without action is only a luxury of the weak. So stop and observe. How is your emotional control? Do you act with virtù or still seek approval? Because while some become masters of their own behavior, others remain servants of their impulses. And in the realm of attraction, those who don't control themselves end up being controlled by those who understand the rules. You can choose to remain predictable, or you can become the kind of man who inspires quiet respect. The one who speaks little but is remembered, the one who doesn't beg for attention but arouses curiosity, the one who acts with purpose, not haste. The world rewards those who learn to combine power and sensitivity, the perfect balance between virtù and fortuna. And as in the art of politics, those who master themselves achieve everything others are still trying to grasp. The end justifies the means when the goal is self-mastery. So ask yourself, what's stopping you from being that man? The fear of rejection, the habit of trying to please, or the illusion that you need to prove something to be valued. A woman senses when a man is driven by necessity, and also senses when he's driven by conscience. The difference is abysmal. The former seeks love as an anesthetic. The latter radiates power because he's learned to be self-sufficient, and it's this inner strength that awakens genuine desire. Because no one surrenders to the weak, only to the stable, the inspiring, the governing. From now on, practice what you've learned. Observe your gestures, test the silence, notice the impact of your presence. You don't need to change who you are, you just need to master what you already have. And remember, the game of attraction isn't about manipulating others, but about understanding yourself to the point of becoming magnetic. The more self-aware you are, the less effort you need to make. And when that point is reached, power ceases to be a role, it becomes your nature. If something in this video made you rethink how you act, then your transformation has already begun, because real power begins in the mind, not in words. And if you want to continue learning to master the invisible game of human behavior, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and come learn to think like Machiavelli would. Because, at the end of the day, what you call love, he would call strategy.